Okay, this morning we're going to speak about the Seder Shel Pesach. There's a story that I saw recently on Tanis Esther. There was an event at Westmount, and they showed a video about the Holocaust, and it was in connection with the Chiras Mechias Amalek that is comes right after Tanis Esther, was Parashat Zohar, and the Nazis that tried to wipe out the Jewish people. And there's a famous Jew who had a newspaper, I think it was called the Yiddish Wart, Mr. Friedenson. And he was a survivor. He was a Hasidic Yid before the war. And he was in a labor camp for much of the war. And he told the story, and in the video it really makes an amazing story. The idea was that while they were on the on the train every morning going from where their camp was to where their working place was, the Nazis wanted to, it was somewhat of a distance, and the Nazi wanted some amusement. It was too boring for him sitting there with these weak Jews, and he wanted some entertainment. So he asked the Jews, sing for me. And these Hasidic boys, what did they say? They didn't look like so Hasidic at that time when they're in their uniforms and their what they were wearing, their jail clothing and so on, but their shaved heads. They sang all together the Hisha Amda, like the niggin that they sing by the Seder. And that gave them, they enjoyed the song, that gave them kayach, hope for the future. V'hisha amda l'avayseinu v'lanu sh'layachad bilvad amad aleinu l'chalaseinu HaKadosh Baruch Hu matilenu miyadam. And that's what they were singing, and they liked the words, and the Nazi liked the niggin. So then everyone was happy. But he's telling over the story after he himself survived and was able to rebuild his family, and Klal Yisrael was rebuilt after such a destruction, after such a churban. But that v'hisha amda l'avayseinu v'lanu, and that's something that we can look around and we can think and we can emphasize in our Seder, that it's in every generation that Klal Yisrael is in some form or another form attacked, and our fabric we tried to be wiped off the map. And whether it's Ahmadinejad or whether it's some other silent Holocaust that's going on through assimilation or through Western culture, whatever it is, there is something that's threatening Klal Yisrael, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, through being shomer the bris that He has with us, will protect us if we hold on to that bris. My father sent me a video, maybe some of you have seen. I think it was the chief rabbi of England, or maybe it was of South Africa, that made this video with the Hisha Amda. It was a beautiful. After I saw it, and my father was so inspired by it, my wife says, every Pesach somebody sends me that video. It's from like 5 years ago. But it's really special, speaking about the rejuvenation of the Jewish people and the Jewish people flourishing in the state of Israel, and with the Torah learning, rebirth of Torahs and yeshivas, and together with the Hisha Amda. So it's something that we could feel special about and feel uplifted in the Seder. So I wanted to speak today a couple of things. One is a beautiful idea from Rav Shamshon Ufal Hirsch about the Shibud of Mitzrayim and about the Geula of Mitzrayim. The four Lashonos of Geula and the stages and the aspects of what the Shibud itself was and the Golus of Mitzrayim. Before that, I want to speak just in general a little bit about the Seder Shel Pesach and the setting of the Seder Shel Pesach. The setting is very important for the Seder Shel Pesach. We set it up beforehand. We try to make it as much as beautiful, as special as we can. And there's a lot that goes into all the arrangements, so much time and arrangements, cleaning, until you feel almost in your own home like you're sitting in a palace with this royal atmosphere of being, coming to that feeling of being B'nai Chayrin, to being that we're the Am HaNivchar, that Kodesh Baruch Hu chose us and made us B'nai Chayrin. There is a enthusiasm in the Seder that you start feeling more as it goes on, and we start the Seder with a sense of there's a kedusha here tonight, and there's a certain there's so many mitzvahs to be mekayim, and that's really, it's very interesting. This is a night where we're asking questions, we're discussing what we believe, where we come from, but if you think about the setting that it's all happening in, it's not like we're sitting down to a debate and deciding, okay, is this true? Is this not true? Did this happen? Did it not happen? But as much as there's Sheila V'tshuva, we have a Seder, and the Seder is being Mekayim mitzvahs. And there are many mitzvahs we're going to come to be Mekayim, and we know that from the start. We put out our Seder plate, and we have our matzah, which we spent a lot of money on, and we worked very hard on everything, and the maror, and we're going to eat the proper shear, the proper amount of time, and everyone's going to get it, and we're going to be Mekayim, the Manishtana, so many mitzvahs. We have this feeling that the whole Reka, the whole atmosphere of this night is one of Kiyum HaMitzvahs. It's just something I was thinking about this morning. Very interesting that's the atmosphere that the approach that we're taking, like that we have these mitzvahs. We are Avodim of Hashem. We believe in it. And we're coming to Mekayim it. And within this we're talking about where it all comes from. I feel that there's a shift somewhat in the Seder from the first half of the Seder to the second half of the Seder. And the first half, during the Magid, in as much as we're enjoying ourselves, but there's somewhat of a feeling of we have mitzvah b'gad to levincha here, Sibor Yitzias Mitzrayim. This is something which is geared for the children, but it's not child's play. There's an air of exaltedness by the Seder Shel Pesach, and probably you're wearing your kittel, and that itself lends to an air of something serious going on over here, uplifted. At the same time, when it comes to the second half of the Seder, when we get to Nirtzah, you start feeling more and more a feeling of people, a family, enjoying themselves, celebration of being who we are, of having a destiny, Chad Gadya, of being, talking about the Geula Hasida, and there's this shift. And I mentioned last year that I was by Rav Nosson Tzvi Finkel's Seder Shel Pesach. It was very special. But one of the things that I noticed was how it wasn't just in my own family that it was this way. When it got to the end of the Seder, it wasn't like we were in the Beis Medrash, We were with the family that was singing together and having a fun time with each one with their knetch, and every family has their knetch, their details and their things that they add in. And by my father-in-law's Seder, which I'm going to be by this year, they have at the end of the Echad Mi Yadeya, each one is acted out. Each one Echad Mi Yadeyas, and it gets and it's faster. They go through each one, and then each one is acting out each one as quick as you can to the next one, and whether it's the Arba Imahs that are holding their babies, like there's a motion like this, to holding the baby, or whatever it is, and it's humorous. The Tisha Yarchei Leida, like this motion like that, and the of acting out a pregnant woman, and where there's the Shmaini Yemei Mila with the whatever the act of the Maya, what he's doing with the Bris Mila. the point is that there's something that, a sense of family on this night, and a sense of being part of a club, being part of a people, being part of... This is something that we enjoy so much. And that's something that we could really, everyone could relate to, look forward to, and children, everyone could relate to. I asked by my table this week, what's your favorite Yom Tov? That's something that you could go around the table on Yom Tov asking people by your meal. Everyone could participate in that question, but people look forward to Pesach. Pesach is a time that we sit and we discuss where we come from, and we enjoy who we are, and we're proud of it. There's there's a feeling of being part of a destiny, and of appreciating what Hashem did for us. I have this new Agada this year. There was a Yid who was visiting from Yerushalayim, Ruben Leichter, and he teaches in Ner LaElef in Yerushalayim. But anyway, he's a Talmud of Rav Wolba, and Rav Shlomo Wolba, who was, we'll say, one of the ones who passed down the heritage of the Musar movement to our generation, from Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz, came from the Alter Slobodka and Alter Kelm, so on, back to Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. Anyway, he has Haggadah, and I started reading his Haggadah. When you read a new Haggadah, you have new insights, you have new thoughts. It's his chadshus. And one of the points that he makes there is that when you read events, news, for example, that's different than when you have a story. And this night we have a Sipor Yetzias Mitzrayim. There's a story that's going on. The difference between events and a story is that a story has many, many events within it, but they are all forming one picture. And there's a beginning and there's an end, and all of these events in the story are linked together and they're going somewhere. And that's Sipor Yetzias Mitzrayim. The Haggadah isn't just a bunch of events together. There was this Makkah, there was this Makkah, this happened, but it's forming forming a picture of Klal Yisrael, how we became who we are, and who we are. And in that sense, he suggests that everything in the Haggadah Shal Pesach fits in to, if it's not actually retelling the story, because there are parts of the story, parts of the Haggadah which aren't telling the story, but they are bringing out the message of the story, setting the stage for the story, and bringing out that in this story we're not just telling a story, but the story has a message to it, and that's what's going on. Okay, I got a little bit farther than that in Haggadah, but that's the part that we're going to quote for today. And in that being the case, I was thinking that when we have the stories of Ma'aseh Rav Eliezer ben Azariah, right, and we hear about Rav Eliezer ben Azariah and Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yeshua, Rav Eliezer ben Azariah, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Tarfon, they were Mesubin. They were discussing the Yetzias Mitzrayim all night until their Talmidim came and told them it's time for Kriyas Shema Shel Shachris. Okay? This sets the stage for, number one, feeling that, in case you're hungry for the matzah balls, be patient. Be patient. It's going to take a while. But at the same time, what I need to say is that we're really putting a focal point on the Magid over here and realizing that we're not in a rush in terms of maybe for the Kiyam HaMitzvahs, yes, but tonight this is what we have to do tonight. Sipor Yetzias Mitzrayim.
They finished the Haggadah and then they were talking.
It could be that, yes. It could be they were talking after they were Mekayim the mitzvahs that they wanted to do in the proper time. That's a separate discussion. But but there's another thing that I think that also is brought out by this, and that is the connection that we have as being a link in history. In other words, on this night we sit and we're doing the same thing that was done from dar to dar to dar, from generation to generation to generation, and throughout our Golos, and whether it was in the times of Rabbi Lazar and Azariah and Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon, and the persecution that they went through, and they were in Bnei Brak. Maybe they were hiding, but what we are part of is something that so many Doros were part of, and sat down to this Pesach Seder, and I wanted another idea brought out, and that is that in this story we see the excitement that they had for it. They were carried away by this. They didn't even realize that it was time to stop, because they were so into it. And that's an idea of getting into it, of discussing it, of really getting into it, of having his chadjas, of a new insight, of thinking about it and discussing on that level. That's something that we see that was going on over there. What happened on this night is that we became the Am Hashem. And what we're talking about on this night is how we had nothing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us everything that we had. We could have had nothing that we have without Him. Whether it's our spiritual, where we are, whether it's our physical. And everything was a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. On this night, there's a few differences that we have every night. That when we speak about Yetzias Mitzrayim, we remember Yetzias Mitzrayim. On this night, we have a number of differences. Okay, something that maybe at the beginning of the Seder you might want to discuss. If you have a short Hakdama to your Seder, that can put everything in the proper perspective, put people in the mood, give people an idea of what we're doing here. People might have what to add on their own. What is the differences between tonight and all other nights? And this is one of the main differences, that we ask questions on this night. Where we have Derech She'ela V'Tshuva, okay, the Manishtana. The ones we want to optimally to ask the questions are the children, because they are the ones that we want to give over the Misara to. If there are no children there, then we still have questions. If a person is a Seder with only adults, so then an adult asks the Manishtana. Perhaps, I'm saying on my own, there would be a good idea to think of a new question. Maybe people could come up with at some point during the Seder that it's not just the same question that they asked last night. Now, I think that this is a little bit, some people might not like this, because most people, they identify with the nostalgic aspect of the Pesach Seder. And they like that every year this is my role at the Pesach Seder. I read this passage and I tell over this story, this parable. That's my role in the Pesach Seder. That's good. Let them enjoy it. Let them have that role. Okay. But by the second night already, at least, there's room for something new. Okay? There's room for something new. And if you have a new question, so then that leaves room for new thought and new discussion, and that's ultimately what we want in the Derech She'ela B'Tshuva. We want that a person's interest should be aroused, and there should be people should be thinking. And that's the She'ela B'Tshuva. Now, the bottom line of the question is that somebody wants an answer. Okay, so that's quest is a question. Person seeking something, and over here the father is the one who's supposed to be giving over the Messiah and giving the answer. We could have a discussion, but ultimately, hopefully, we're going to step up to the plate and give what we believe is the answer, okay, and not just leave it as an open forum. Okay, this is the discussion, now let's go further. But there's a leader to the Seder, there's a passing on, the passing on of the Messiah.
Does it have to always be the oldest person there, the father of the house?
I think there should be somebody leading the Seder. If there's somebody else that the father wants to be mechabed, is leading the Seder, let's just say there's somebody who's elderly, or somebody is not as learned as his son, or his son-in-law, and he wants to mechabed him to lead the Seder, you could do that. I would still, if I was that let's say patriarch of the family, I would still reserve certain role of giving over a central message that I would like to impart. And even if somebody else is the one reading that Haggadah. That's just, I'm not there yet, okay? I have led my Seder and really enjoyed leading the Seder. This year I'm going to be by my father-in-law's Seder. So if there's something that I want to give over to my child personally that doesn't fit into the larger picture of a big Seder there, I'll be sitting hopefully next to my children, and I could talk to them, and I could tell them. I remember one year that I was sitting next to my oldest son, and it was my first son, and it was my first year that my oldest son was like old enough to talk to about Yetzias Mitzrayim, and I was still in
18 months.
I was like, still like, all fresh and excited about this, and I had seen a short Haggadah of a rabbi in Eretz Yisrael wrote this Haggadah in English, and his name is escaping me right now, and he has a beautiful idea there. I mentioned this last year, and David Ostreicher said that he had a similar experience with his father, and it made a very strong impact on him and his brothers. And the idea that was given forth was that when telling over about the Shibud of Mitzrayim and the Inoi and the Sivlais of Mitzrayim and the difficulties, the hardships and the salvation, something to make it more real for a child was to put in a character there. You can call the boy whatever name that you choose, or a family of children, a boy and a girl, and when that somehow makes it more real. And then you speak about what happened to them, what they were going through, and what the boy was doing, and how he was suffering, and the Egyptians, and the stages, and the miracles, and what the boy was witnessing. That's a different experience when a child hears a story that's happening to another child with a name, with feeling what the kid's feeling, and then what he's going through. My son wasn't crying, but I was. Okay? So, anyway, maybe that can be more powerful. Who knows who's gaining more by teaching it to the next generation? Is it the one who's teaching it, or is it the one who's receiving it? Okay? And I say the same thing about teaching a class. Who knows who's gaining more? The one who's teaching the class, or the one who's hearing it? Hopefully we're all gaining. But there is, Chazal say, mitalmida yoser mikulam, and when a person has to prepare, or they have to give over, we take on that role by the Pesach Seder, that we are teaching, and we have to prepare, we have to think about it, and the questions that what are we learning from the children? Are we learning what are we learning from our students? Are we learning because they're teaching us? Or we're learning more from them because we're learning more Torah through them, because they're challenging us, because they're opening us to a new perspective, forcing us to think and challenge ourselves to have a clarity of what we're going to give over.
It's not quite the same thing, but when my kids were small, if they were doing something, I don't know, if they're jumping on the bed or something, I would say, I just read in the paper yesterday about an 8-year-old girl who was jumping on the bed and she fell off and she broke her leg. And this is very convincing because I read it in the paper. So years today, they still remember. I said, it's so good. When you said that, I still remember today.
Right,
it happened to another 8-year-old girl just like me. You weren't telling the truth. I said, yeah, but you know what? Some things you can sort of... They've forgiven me.
They figured it out?
By their cognitive training, they figured out that I wasn't telling the truth.
Okay, they're not upset at you for it, and that shows that that is truth. It's a way of giving over the truth through in a way that a child can relate to and feel it.
The star.
Okay. We're Masl B'Genusa Messiah B'Shevach, and that is part of what we discussed. The Masl B'Genusa Messiah B'Shevach is feeling the contrast, feeling the change, feeling what it was like to go out of Mitzrayim. On this night, Morer, Charaisas, right? That the feeling, telling over about the Makkah, about the Inui and the Seva and the hard Gullus, and on the other hand, on the same night going out and having the other half, and the Cherus. Now it occurred to me that there are two times a year, because we spoke about it a little bit last year. I was thinking about it. Last week I was thinking about it a little bit more. Tisha B'Av and the Leil HaSeder fall out on the same night. The Medrash links the two. The Medrash says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, his biyani b'mirorim hervani lana. It's a pasuk. HaKadosh Baruch Hu satiated me with morer, with bitter herbs. Hervani lana. He quenched my thirst with his bitter drink. Lana. Well, what's the connection between Tisha B'Av and Pesach? There are 2 nights a year. We said it last week. We said something from the base of Levi. This is not contradicted. It's a little different different thought. There are 2 nights a year that we focus on the Inui, the Seva, the hardships, the persecution that the Jewish people went through. Is on the Leil HaSeder and on Tisha B'Av. On the Leil HaSeder, we might become very emotional about it. We might even shed a tear. On Tisha B'Av, we're mourning. There's Avelus. On the Leil HaSeder, it's not Avelus. We're not mourning. There's a big difference. On this night, we're appreciating where we were and how HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out from that and how He saved us from it, and realizing that was part of our destiny, of where we got to. In other words, we're not mourning. What's mourning? Okay, maybe somebody has a deeper perspective than me on this, but my own thinking, we're mourning, we're missing something. There's something lacking. There's something gone. We miss it. We're feeling the absence of it. When on the Leil HaSeder, as much as we're talking about the Inui and the Seva, but we aren't feeling like, we're missing something. What we're realizing is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us through this. We went through this for a reason. This was part of our destiny. But appreciating where we were and where HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought us to, that's what we're going through. And when it comes, in the end of times, in the final Geula, the Meir of Yameinu, Tisha B'Av is going to become that. It's not going to be a Zman of Avelus anymore. We're going to realize, and as impossible as it seems to perceive right now, that everything that we went through, we're going to remember that. We're going to think about it. But it's not going to be in the context of Avelus. It's going to be in the context of seeing how HaKadosh Baruch Hu helped us and brought us through that, and how that brought us to our final goal. And I think that's something that we could think about and realize by the Leil HaSeder, where as much as it is something that we, as it goes on, we think about the final Geula. The second half of Hallel is speaking more about the final Geula. The first half that we have before the meal is about speaking more about the redemption from Yetzias Mitzrayim. The second half more from about the final Geula. The children and others I think that it's a delicate balance here, because we want to please everyone. We don't want everyone to fall asleep. We have let's say a timetable, and at the same time, kol amar v'lesaper harezim meshubach. If it's going well, if people are talking, we want to encourage it. Let it keep going, right? And if a person asks a question, we don't want them to feel like, okay, that was a stupid question, or even not as bad as that, but also bad that, okay, here's the generic answer, let's go further. That we don't want, because then we miss the boat. We want that we're not just as if the child knows, okay, here, I'm reading off a script, here's the answer. But we're giving the answer in our own words, and we're relating to the question. If it's just a generic answer, you're not relating to the question. And that's something it's a balance. It's something that takes a sensitivity to the one who's asking, and something to keep in mind. Last year I was by my father-in-law's Seder. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before. It must have been last year because I wasn't there the year before. And there was one meal there was children, and both Sederim there was children. But one Seder the flavor was more focusing on the adults, and this other Seder was focusing more on the children. Sometimes you have to do that, you have to, sometimes you can't always, you have to give the floor to different people. But anyway, all the adults, for whatever age they were, enjoyed the Seder that was more geared towards the children. That's the way it was. Okay? And there's something about that. You make it exciting. You make it if there are children there, you give them prizes or incentives or small things that it doesn't have to be that the focus is on getting the prize. The focus could be on participation, but there's something that enhances. I thought of a mashal to what it is like Klal Yisrael going down to Mitzrayim. The mashal is, in other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Avraham Avinu by the Bris Bein Habesarim, he told him that your children are going to go down to Mitzrayim, and they're going to be avadim, they're going to have inoi, they're going to be gerim in a land that's not theirs. And Baruch Hu told Avraham Avinu this, and he told him, I'm going to take them out, I'm going to bring them to the land that I promised you. So what's going on here is, imagine a fruit that is put into the ground, and this fruit has a seed inside of it. The fruit starts rotting, turning to earth. The seed starts decaying. It opens up, and all that's left is the innermost core of the seed. The shell has been broken. It's totally, let's call it, vulnerable to the dirt that's in it, that's turning everything into earth. And what happens is that this seed sprouts forth, and there's a tree, and in that tree there's more fruit, and that fruit, this one fruit started off and was nurtured. Did you have a whole tree before? You didn't have a whole tree before. Before Klal Yisrael went into Mitzrayim, we didn't have Am Yisrael. That was a new birth. That was a new thing, a new nation that was created. But was it a totally new thing? It wasn't totally new. There was a seed from the Avos that was waxing, that was growing, that was being nurtured. It looked like it was coming to be destroyed. It got almost to this point of destruction. But that seed was still there at its core, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu was planting Klal Yisrael to bring the Jewish people to not just be an individual, not just to be a family, but to be a nation. And it was through the development of that seed. There are different various explanations, approaches. One approach which could be go together with this, is that because Baruch Hu wanted to give Klal Yisrael Eretz Yisrael. He wanted to give us gifts, and the only way to keep those gifts is if we would appreciate it, we would take care of it, and we would cherish it, and realize that this is something special. And if we didn't cherish it, we didn't take care of it, we didn't appreciate it, we couldn't keep it. So that's why Kodesh Baruch Hu made clear to us that this which you have in Eretz Yisrael, this which you have in Am Yisrael, this which you have a relationship with me, this is something which isn't just natural course of events. This is something which went back to nothingness, almost yesh me'ayin, and now you realize this is a gift. When you realize it's a gift, then you can keep it. And there's another idea, and that idea is that we learn to be avodim in Mitzrayim. In Mitzrayim, we learned our ego was broken, our gaiva was broken. In Mitzrayim, we learned that how to do the will of a master. Here, when Kadosh Baruch Hu took us out, so now we realized that we learned how to become avodim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it was very, very different, because to be avodim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's all about us. What do I mean by that? HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world to do chesed with us. He wants to give us a relationship so that He could be mative to us to benefit us. And He's doing this whole relationship is He says, serve me, recognize me, acknowledge that you're my avodim, so that you could carry out my name in this world, so that you in your life could be Mekadesh Shem Shemayim in your own life. So in conclusion, if you take a look in the beginning of Va'era, you'll see a beautiful piece from Rav Shamshon for Hirsch. There are 4 Lashonos of Geula. There's just a minute. 4 Lashonos of Geula. We have 4 kaisas by the Seder. V'aytzeisi, v'yitzalti, v'ga'alti, v'lakachti. V'aytzeisi, aschem mitachas, sivlais Mitzrayim. I will bring you out from succumbing under the burdens of Egypt. V'yitzalti aschem me'avaydasam. I will rescue you from their bondage, from the avdos, from the servitude. V'ga'alti eschem b'zraya netuya, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm. V'shvatim gedalim, with great judgments. There were 3 aspects to the Galus Mitzrayim. The 4th one is the goal of when they're taken out, what they're going to become. L'kachti eschem li la'am. These 3, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Avraham Avinu by the bris bein of Besarim that they're going to be Gerim in a land that's not theirs. They're going to be avodim, and they're going to be v'inuaisam. They're going to oppress them and harm them, to pain them. Here it says, instead of inoi, it says sivlais. Sivlais Mitzrayim, sevel, and inoi is the same thing. So now, when it's the opposite order that you have, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told them they're first going to be Gerim, then they're going to be avodim, then they're going to be v'inuaisam. Here, it's one at a time is being removed in the time of redemption. First, but it's in the opposite order. The first thing is that He's going to take off the inoi. He's going to take off the civilized Mitzrayim. The second thing is v'itzalti eschem me'avaydasam. Then they're not going to be avodim anymore. And finally, the ga'alti eschem. They will not be gerim anymore. In a stroke of brilliance here, the Shamshon Hirsch says, by vaytzeisi eschem, it says from what? I'll take you out mitachas sivleis Mitzrayim. V'itzalti eschem, it says from what? Me'avaydasam, from their avdos. But from the ga'alti eschem, it doesn't say from what. It says the ga'alti eschem b'zraya netuya b'shvatim gedalim. How? But it doesn't say from what. The from what is from what the essence of being a ger, of being a stranger in a strange land is. And that is from the absence of having a goyal. When you're a ger in a land, you have no goyal. You have no redeemer. You have no family member that cares about you that's the champion of your cause, that if somebody's going to harm you, they are going to step in and be your goyel, to be there the one to help you out in your time of need. If you're a ger, you have no rights. You have to just be happy that you're allowed to be here. Just be happy that we let you continue to stay here and be our guests. You have no rights. In such a reka, in such an atmosphere, such a framework, then it's very natural that then they could make them avodim. If they were gerim with no rights, then they could make them slaves. And if they're slaves, then they could persecute them and make them and hurt them and oppress them. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu took them out one at a time from each one of these steps. And if you go further in Va'era, since this is going so well, just give me one more minute. There are 10 makas, and the 10 makas is broken up by Rav Yehuda as Titzach, Adash, Bachav. Titzach, Adash, Bachav. 3 in each group. The 3 in each group is, each one is punishing the Mitzrim, taking out on them retribution, restoration for what happened to the Klal Yisrael in each one of these 3. Okay. Titzach, Hadash, Be'achav. This was a cycle of 3. The first 2, HaKadosh Baruch Hu warned Paro. The next one was a punishment for that. And the final one was Makas B'chares. Okay. Now, very quickly, Titzach is Dam. Okay. Hadash is Arad. And Be'achav, Parad. Okay. Each one is on a different plane. Okay, the first 3 are on a plane of water and land. Okay, the next one is on a plane of the whole atmosphere. The Adash, we'll explain in a second. And the third one is in a plane of they themselves on their own, the Mitzrayim themselves. The taking away from Klal Yisrael any sense of rights, totally gerim. You're a people with no rights. You're totally gerim here. That because Baruch Hu attacked the Dam, the Yam, the Nilos. The Nile River was the sense of security. We have everything. Because Baruch Hu says you don't have everything. This, instead of being the source of giving you Mayim, it could actually give you Dam. And then they had Adash, was Arav. You're safe. You're secure. You have your army. You have your safety. No. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, all right, wild animals come in. There's no protection from anything that you felt like you were at home. And the third one is Be'achav, Barat. Is that Barat? Barat. The whole chaos of atmosphere. But they never had rain. They didn't have Barat. They never had hail in Egypt. It was a land that was irrigated by the Nile River. Here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you think that this is your place. You have your atmosphere, total chaos. In the atmosphere, now there's going to be Barat. And each one, that was the next one. They made them avodim. It says you're avodim. You're so rich. You have wealth. You have prosperity. They're the downtrodden avodim. You're the masters. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I will take away. Will send Svardeya. Okay, Svardeya is the tamest of all animals. You never saw a kid that's scared of a frog. And okay, maybe you did. My kids aren't scared of frogs. Girls. And they maybe because they're yucky, not because they're scary, right? And because Baruch Hu says, here, this is going to invade you. It's going to take away your pride. You're going to be exposed to. They're going to make a mockery out of you. These frogs are going to come and they're going to be on top of you. They're going to be invading you. And they had Dever, the pestilence of their cattle and all their belongings. And then you have, I'm just going through all the second one in each one of the groups. Arba, anything that was left from all of their produce, the Arba came wiped it out. You think that you're the Adonim, you're the masters over here, you have the wealth. It's a Kodesh Baruch Hu. It's a Kodesh Baruch Hu. And then the last one, you have Kinim. So this is Inui. This is Seva. This is giving the mitzvah what it means to have ongoing pain and so what is it? Kinim, the lice come on them, and then the shchin, the boils on them, and then v'achav, the choshech. The choshech was for 3 days they're like locked in darkness because Baruch Hu didn't put any chains on them. They're locked up in a jail. They have no food. They're starving. 3 days that they couldn't move. The last 3 days of the choshech, and then finally makas b'chayres. So. Okay, there's many more different Torah on the Haggadah of Pesach. This is something you can look in the Hirsch Haggadah, the Hirsch Chumash, and it's beautiful. It goes Parshas Va'era and the beginning of Va'era. Okay, Yashikach.
Sure. Thank you.